This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, episode 330. Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl. Neat and tidy! Welcome to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, animation addicts. I'm Morgan Stradling.
And I'm Chelsea Robson.
Happy 2025, Chelsea.
Happy 2025, Morgan. We have made it to the new year, and I'm pretty excited
Fully
about
intact
it.
so far. We'll see where we'll give an update at the end of the year to see how many limbs and body parts and mental capacity is still remaining. But at the beginning, we're still all here. This is great.
Perfect.
So Chelsea and I were shooting the breeze a little bit before this episode, and we were chatting about updates in life and what's happened. So if you want to check that out, make sure to stay tuned to the bloopers because we just started going and realized, hey, we haven't actually started our episode. So if you want to see what I have been doing so far, what Chelsea's been doing, stay tuned to the bloopers. Of course, it's not an Animation Addicts episode without listening to some good old bloopers. But this one is an extended bloopers. And it's a lot of fun. It's not really a blooper. It's just more of a cut segment of the podcast.
An update on both of us.
Yes. But I'm excited. So this is our first animated film that we're going to be reviewing from the year. Is this a 2024 movie, 2025 movie? It depends on who you ask. I'm going to count it as, it just depends. Usually we go by the US release date. So this is one of the first animated films of 2025. People had seen it into 2024. And I'm very excited for this one. This is Aardman Animations, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl.
It's so cute.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
All right, I love Aardman Animation, and this is yet another amazing Wallace and Gromit film. Before we get into this, let's talk about some background information about this film. So the production studio is Aardman Animations. The distributor, there are two, BBC in the United Kingdom and Netflix, which has the worldwide release. The directors are Nick Park and Mark Burton. Release date, the 3rd of January, 2025. Budget, we don't know. And box office, not available. So this was released in the UK on BBC One, which BBC One is kind of just the BBC's, station. I was double checking to see if it was like their streaming service. It doesn't seem it's their television show. So it was broadcast on the BBC One on the 25th of December. And then BBC iPlayer is an on-demand service of the BBC. So it did not get a theatrical release, but it had a limited release the week before. So I was like, man, I really would have loved to have seen this on the big screen. You know how I feel about Netflix releases, but it did premiere. There's something called AFI Fest, which is the American Film Institute. They did sort of a festival in October, and at the Garmin's Chinese Theater in Hollywood, the final day of it, they screened this film. So I know a lot of people were able to see it then. I mean, fellow critics, and then it had a limited theatrical release on the 18th of December 2024. So again, just going into this, I know I'm like beating a dead horse with this, but it's just so sad that we don't get to see this in the big screen. I feel like this would get so much more attention for Netflix if they released it in theaters first. I know it's not like, oh, it's easy to release in theaters. There's still a lot of cost and distribution. You have to do the prints, you have to do, the different cutouts and posters, and there's significant costs that come with releasing it. But I feel like Netflix model is fine, but a Netflix film comes out and it's just lost into the abyss because the next one comes up, the next big TV show. And there isn't a lot of really big word of mouth for these. I feel like shows perhaps, but films less so. You see what they did with Red One and on Amazon Prime. Well, Red One had a limited theatrical release, or had a theatrical release. It didn't do great, but at least it brought back some of the production and it got some word out. Like I remember hearing about it. I didn't want to see it when it initially came out for various reasons, a super busy time. And then when it came out, I was like, oh yeah, I'd heard good things about this because people had seen it in theater. So I'm going to go check it out. And I just feel like the Netflix model would be better served and financially more profitable for them just to put it in theaters. Just a little bit, just get that word out there. Then people hear about it. And then, hey, you know what? I wasn't able to see it or I didn't want to, but now I'm definitely going to check it out. I think they get more subscriptions that way. But this isn't an episode Morgan ragging on Netflix's distribution model, which, hey, they're the billion-dollar company, not me. What do I know? But alas.
I saw this originally on Netflix, and it was one of those that it's like you kind of forget that it's new. Like you just think that it might be something that is like an old movie that they're now bringing back, but you'd forget that it wasn't until you said, oh, it's the new one. I was like, oh, it's actually a new one.
Yeah.
So I think that would have made it more clear to everyone if they saw it.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Wallace and Gromit series is that it's been around for a long time. There's quite a few films that are in their catalog. They started out as shorts a long time ago, in the 90s, and they were phenomenal for this series. And then they ended up having going into feature-length films. And Aardman Animation has been around for a long time. If you look at the list of features, I mean, you think of them kind of as a movie company, but they are so much more than a movie company. They've done tons of movies. They've done tons of television shows. As with many, they've done not thousands, but being very hyperbolic there, but they've done countless amount of shorts. They've done music videos. I was looking to see that they ended up doing one of the Spice Girls music videos in 1998. which was really fun. And then the bread and butter for a lot of animation studios as you're getting started is your commercials. And they, to this day, still do countless number of commercials. They've done like, these are called idents, you know, kind of the network card that has the information like, oh, this is NBC or whatever. They'll do a lot of those for different stations in the UK. And they've done some apps. I mean, they are just all video games. They are all over the place as far as what they're doing. So if you think like, oh, I forget about Aardman. Well, because Aardman isn't strictly films. And so they'll go away and you won't see a movie for them for quite a while, but they're really busy behind the scenes and they're really, really big in the UK. And Wallace and Gromit are just superstars in the UK as well.
Right.
And so going back to the actual, so we're going to talk about films that Aardman has done, just to brief you. This is not including any shorts, but like the main theatrical films, Chicken Run, Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Rare Rabbit. So we do have those 3 Wallace, Gromit, and Wallace shorts from the 90s, but the first full-length one was Curse of the Rare Rabbit, Flushed Away, Arthur Christmas, In the Pirates, In an Adventure with Scientists, Shaun the Sheep Movie, Early Man, Shaun the Sheep Movie, Farmageddon, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl. So this is the most recent one, and it's a bit of a follow-up to The Wrong Trousers, which The Wrong Trousers is where we first see Feathers McGraw introduced, our villainous penguin, who I absolutely love. And I just thought, you know, going back into this movie, like you said, man, it feels like this is a movie that has been existed. Like, did this come out in the 90s? I don't know. And there's just so much timeless character to the Aardman films and the Wallace and Gromit films that even though this is new, it still matches the style of the original ones. It's timeless in a way, even though we're going to talk about some of the themes of this movie. But it's like just comforting, these movies.
It really was. I was sitting and watching it, and it's, you know, snuggled up and very cozy in my little room. And I just felt like this is just, it's so delightful just to sit and watch this movie. And the characters are funny. You have funny little moments, the gestures, the way that they draw you in with the characterization. I felt like they haven't skipped a beat as far as how good they have kept us. And it really did, because it is going off of, with Feathers McGraw. Like it did feel like the next big thing, you know? And at first I wasn't sure that this was an actual movie. I didn't know if it was a short, and I was just like, what is this again? It's kind of long. But they had a really nice flow as far as like the build up, and then the different themes that they threw in. It was delightful.
Yeah, you say, is this a short? It's 70 minutes without the credits, 79 minutes full runtime. And it definitely is on the lower end as far as a feature length cutoff. But they were able to do so much in so little. And another thing that's a hallmark of these Wallace and Gromit films, and just Aardman in general, is that they don't need to be wordy. There obviously are characters that speak and have a lot going on as far as dialogue, but there's also, on the flip side, there's characters that literally do not speak. You know, we're talking about Gromit and Feathers McGraw, and they, because of the physical comedy and animations, are able to tell the story and the humor delightfully. And so going back to the characters, you know, there's really not that many characters in here, but we have Wallace, who is he's just this aloof inventor. He's so smart, but he's totally aloof to what's going on and how his inventions are really affecting Gromit. And his voice actor retired in 2010. His name was Peter Salis, and then he died in 2017. So they brought in a new guy named Ben Whitehead. And if I wouldn't have known this, you would have no idea that the voice actor had been replaced. I thought he did a fantastic job, perfectly seamlessly, was able to transition, you know, allowing these characters to be a little bit more timeless as they go on. And then you have Peter Kay, who's the Chief Inspector Albert McIntosh. He was a constable in the previous film. And then we have Reese Shearsmith as Norbot, who we'll talk about. And then obviously you have Gromit, who doesn't speak, Feathers McGraw, who doesn't speak. There's Lauren Patel as PC Mukherjee, which is one of the chief inspectors, the police officers. And really just that's about it. We have Anya, Doorstep, and Anton Deck. But there's not much happening as far as characters, and I really enjoy that. I like keeping a very close-knit cast of main characters. It keeps it simple. And we really do get to focus on just Wallace and Gromit as our stars.
Are those actually no? Okay, those are the names of the characters. I was like, did a mother actually name her daughter Anya Doorstep? Oh, that's funny.
What I love about Aardman, just first and foremost, is that they really have this handcrafted nature to their animation. They stop motion is their bread and butter, but specifically claymation. Their characters are still molded clay. They're not just these heads like you would see with Leica, where they're just swapping the entire heads in and out. But the characters are able to be molded. They have these have this gesticulation with them, where you can move the characters around, but also the faces, you can move them around. They do have different. They do swap out the bottom part of the mouth for certain vowel sounds just to make it easier. But as far as like the eyes and whatnot, like it's this plasticine that's able to be molded but not messed up. The more that you touch it, it's able to be manipulated in that way. And so sometimes you do still see thumbprints on the characters, and it just gives this warmth to the characters, this homegrown nature that I didn't know that I was missing, but I really loved it. And it made it feel so real.
Yeah, I did notice there was one moment where I was like, I feel like that's a thumbprint on like the neck area. I was like, oh man, I love that.
It's so cute. Yeah, and obviously with technology having improved over the past 35, 40 years from when they first started making these, they are able to do so much more. You know, the character movements, and they can build out the sets quite large. Things that are like visual, different effects like fire and smoke and stuff like that, those still aren't necessarily CGI. They aren't stop motion, but they're CGI. And there were some moments that really did feel CGI-ish to me. And they talk about, I watched some videos where they were talking about the making of, and they welcome CGI to an extent. They're not going to totally shun it. But I did feel the moments that I could tell that it was CGI felt off, and I really didn't enjoy it. Like there's a big crash that happens at the end with the train, and that just felt fakey to me. It just, not fake, but it takes you out of the style that you're so used to. You're like, whoa, what's this? Mm-hmm. So for that, I didn't really love it. I really would have liked to have seen them try to convey the same drama using stop motion. I understand why they don't, but that was a very small nitpick for me as far as the animation style. Otherwise, I'm just blown away by the process of animation. They were talking about, hey, maybe on a good week, we can get 1 minute of footage. So that's why it takes us about 5 years to make a full-length film. And it's just, wow, stunning. And just, I'm awestruck.
But I mean, the amount of budgeting you have to do for that is amazing. Because, okay, so if they've been working on this for 5 years, so they started during the pandemic, which is crazy. Well, maybe a little bit before the pandemic. But even then, like, you have to think about how much money that whole process is going to take. And you have to take into consideration the amount of, like, even on a good year, there is going to be inflation. And like then, and maybe low inflation, but like especially after the pandemic, how much inflation has happened. Like, I don't know. This is just what has gone through my head just now. I was like, how much money this thing was like supposed to cost after 5 years, but then now it is. It's like, oh, that's, man, really could have used more money. More of a distribution.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, at what point are you able to just increase the number of sets and cameras that you have, right? So we know that we have all these scenes, and we have, let's say, 15 different sets. You know, well, why don't we just do that 15 times? We have 15 sets, 15 cameras, and all these different animators working, so that way we can streamline production. I'm sure they have it down to a science where they're able to do as many as they can. But yeah, what I thought was interesting is a lot of the animators in this clip that I was watching, which I'll put a link in the show notes, was, I mean, they seem to be old-timey guys who have been doing this for a long time. And I kind of really appreciated that. I feel like this is kind of a lost art where people who stuck with it, and they're still here. And I like seeing kind of the old guards still chugging along, making these films.
Yeah, and sharing it with new people coming in, because otherwise it's just going to be completely lost.
Yeah. So the theme, not the theme, but the plot basically is there are these two guys. There's Wallace, who's an inventor. He's an aloof inventor, and he has a dog named Gromit, who's just this, genius. And he really continually is saving Wallace from himself. If it were not for Gromit, Wallace would be dead due to his crazy nature. And, I liked the first scene where we see them just the different amount of inventions that Wallace does to help get him dressed in the morning and do this and that. And they really contrast each other, where Wallace is the inventor. He's always pushing the envelope as far as technology. And then we see that Gromit likes a little bit more slow pace. And he likes to be in nature, and he's a gardener, and gardening is an incredibly therapeutic practice. Yeah. And so being out there in nature, your fingers in the ground and building and cultivating something, there's just so many benefits of that. And then all of a sudden, Gromit, aloof, unaware, comes in and says, hey, here's this technology. Here's this gnome that's going to help you. And so he has a smart gnome, which we call Norbot. What was it called? Norbert. Yes, the Norbot. And basically destroys the garden. And Gromit is totally flabbergasted and shocked at what just happened. And then we also have the side plot that Feathers McGraw has been in prison this whole time, and he kind of concocts a way to hack in to the smart gnome, which then the smart gnome, I love that there's an evil setting, that when Wallace created this, he had a various type of settings, and evil was one of them. So he puts it to evil setting, and then obviously he has an ultimate plan to help Feathers McGraw escape. But in the meantime, he creates an army of these gnome robots to help, and they're in debt and they are not able to pay their bills, and so they're able to use this for the community for lots of good, which I'm like, what were you doing all this time with your inventions? Like, you were just making them, and that's like the classic. That's the classic genius, where it's like they're not thinking about the money or the practicality or how we're going to stay in business. But I feel
he just wants a giant slide to go from one room to the other.
Yeah. So that's basically like the plot, and then how Feathers McGraw escapes. It turns out that the diamond from the original film that they were supposed to, save and put in this vault. I thought it was so funny. They had this celebration or this anniversary of putting the diamond away, and they were going to open the vault of I'm like, nobody has checked on the diamond this entire time.
They just put it in a box.
Yeah. And it turns out it was swapped. It was a turnip. And so where was the diamond?
Feathers McGraw he knew this was happening, and so he decided to switch it way back many years ago and put it in the old teapot, which has not been used since that night.
I thought that was a great callback, because we see that the teapot was a big thing, but it has been replaced by technology, and Gromit really longs for that. He enjoyed making the cup of tea or the pot of tea, but he kept it for various reasons, and it was up there, and it had tons of dust on it, so when they were able to bring it back down and open it up, I just thought a lot of care went into this movie as far as tying all the different strings and loose ends. There were a few different plot points that were happening, and I thought it was very seamless how they were able to incorporate it all.
They really did. And the profession of storytelling was completely honored in this one, because they did have little moments that they called back to even the previous movie, but then they set up for a reveal, not necessarily a reveal, but maybe a return to form at the very end of the movie. Seeing how things had changed. So, for example, Wallace had created an automatic patting machine so that he didn't have to pat Gromit on the head, and this machine just like slaps him all over, and Gromit is not a fan of this. And then at the very end, he comes back and he brings it. He's like, "No, I retooled it to help out with the Norbots, and because there's some things I just want to do myself." And then he like pats him on the head, and there's just this it's a very sweet moment that you're like, they're friends again.
Yeah,
like that personal touch. And on the one side, they do open it up as all of these sci-fi movies and stories come when you are bringing technology into our lives, and how much of this is going to actually take over our lives for the better or for the worst. And we definitely saw that with Norbot. Like as a good, when he's in his good mode, he's good. But when he's in his evil mode, then no, that's not good. And I just, those were things that it's like, this really should teach us all not like the fact, why do we even have that lever?
Yes.
Like, oh man. So these are definitely questions that are high on what is happening today as well. You have Elon Musk coming out with the Tesla robots that are going to be like taking over things. And it's just like, it is a question of, okay, when have we gone too far? And in this one, they're like, oh, but it'll all be okay because we'll just go back to the good version of it. And I'm like, but he still has a bad version. Yes. I thought that those themes of like the AI, the automation, but then also having like the human touch theme was very apropos.
Yeah, they contrast having how technology can be a benefit to your life, but too much technology can be a bane and can really hurt you. And that where is that fine line of incorporating it in your life? And there are moments when technology, while can help and would be good in theory, is it needed? Is it necessary? Does it take away from the human or dog experience, the canine experience, if you will? In this case with Gromit, I mean, he needed his gardening as an outlet, for especially when you're dealing with Wallace every day. So I thought that was really good. And I thought that was timely. It didn't feel like too modern. I didn't feel like, wow, this is a 2025 theme. I mean,
and they're still using rotary phones.
Yes, so. Yes. They're kind of like stuck in this like weird time, which is great. And I really love it. And, having the helper robot, I think has been in every decade. There's probably been a movie or some sort of piece of literature or media that covers that topic. So that was really, really good. And I liked that. So the smart gnome, definitely a check. I really liked the design. I liked the neat and tidy. That was continuously repeated. I just thought that was so funny. When they are hacking into Wallace's database and computers, and you had to do the CAPTCHA, if you will, and which one of these are cheese?
It's made of cheese.
and he clicks all the obvious ones, and he sees the moon, and that is a callback to one of the earlier shorts, like the very first short, where they try to go to the moon made of cheese, and so he clicks like yes, meaning like I understand Wallace on a level that no one else would. Like this would be a trick question for anyone else, and he clicks yes, and it gets him into the computer, and I just thought that was so funny. Like this is filled with cheese. All the delicious cheesy goodness, tons of gags, visual gags. You got the dry humor. Also, as far as different genres that this movie covers, I mean, it's a comedy. It's kind of a thriller in a way, as far as it has a heist. There's an action part. And I think they're able to really jump from these different genres very well. I liked that the movie escalated appropriately. It seems that it's very subtle and contained initially to their world, and it kind of expands a little bit out to the neighborhood, and it gets a little further out until ultimately we have this epic train sequence that happens, and we have submarines and lots of really, really fun stuff.
They had lots of things, and to think of having to do the animation for all of those is a lot.
Every time I'm just like, wow. every time we do a stop motion film, it's just like, whoa. Whoa, Scoop.
Exactly.
Going back to Norbert, his charging noises were very uncomfortable. I did not enjoy that at all.
That was really uncomfortable.
I thought instantly, like, he can't recharge in the closet. What's happening here? Like, you have to put him in Gromit's room, and then quickly Gromit puts him down in the basement, and he's still just making all sorts of noises.
Connects him to the computer.
Ooh, never do that. Never connect to the interwebs.
Yes, always stay offline.
Also, another message I felt like, never speak to the police. Ever. Just don't. Oh. I know that's a very, the police are your friends. Like, nope. Don't ever talk to them. Just say, I'll have my lawyer talk to you, even if you're innocent. Even if you're innocent.
Yeah, true. Especially how they're like, just find, if you need evidence, just find it here and bring it. Like, what?
Well, that's the thing. They take his whole entire house and they're like, well, something here must prove that there is evidence. And so that's one thing that I think might have been a little miss about this, is that the film escalates appropriately, except in one moment where, Wallace he's beloved by the country and the city. They love him. He's just such a great guy. And then he has all these gnomes that are able to help people. He's revered in this community. And then suddenly, like, they turn on a dime because she's able to see, have this wall of connections, which is like the classic thing that, a good old crime wall with the strings connected. And she's
sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes, and she's able to point, he's the connection. So instantly the cops turn on him and the people turn on him. And I thought, okay, we don't see that happening. Like they say, oh, well, there's all these incidents that are happening with these people, but we didn't see those incidents, I don't think. Maybe we did. But we didn't see it where the people connected it to Wallace. I feel like we needed one more scene where the people are directly seeing that, like, hey, what's happening to me is because of you. And they all turn on him instead of just the police saying, hey, we made this connection. It's you. You're the bad guy. Let's get after you. Like, we're not even going to talk to him. We're just going to... It was a little... Yes, but it's fine. I mean, all things said and good.
All things so, yeah. Some of my favorite gags in this were just the facial expressions between Feathers McGraw and Gromit, like back and forth, just because neither of them can speak, and so you just have to go. They just drew you in so well as far as like, I know what you're doing, like just the hand gestures, little things that they had. There's one moment where Gromit comes out in a hat to do his gardening and his ears are fluffed down and it makes him look like an old lady with that like haircut. And I was like, oh, they're so good. I felt like all of those things were so neatly packed, neat and tidy.
Tidy.
But when you think about how like they really have to know every gag right from the beginning.
Yeah.
The video that you mentioned earlier, I watched, and they're just talking about how we go off of a lot of the audio for the voice actors, but then we also have to like create all of these gags within that moment, and just how much you have to plan to do, even just like a flinch to like get that gag. It's amazing.
Yeah, and they talked about how they heavily, as with animation, they heavily storyboard. And they have an animatic that they do beforehand, which is the way you must, especially when every second is just painstaking to create. And if you mess it up or it gets cut, I mean, what a waste of time. And so I felt like because they have to be so precise in the planning, the execution, it reaps the rewards. And I think that's a difference that we see in some non-animated films, especially some of these bigger budget Disney films, as far as superhero films or whatever, is that they have a script and they think that's good. And they may board it out, but not to the level that the animation studios do. And then we see, oh, well, this didn't work out, or the people aren't, the audiences aren't like this, so let's reshoot. And it's so much more expensive to go back and to do that, to do all these costly reshoots or to re-edit or to reanimate, whatever. And I don't know why the animation studios haven't gotten more on board with this, or not the animation, the general live action movie studios haven't gotten on board with this, because their budgets are out of control. And there's many reasons, but one of the main reasons, they constantly just go back and do reshoots like they're nothing, like they're handing out candy. It's just insane to me. And so seeing this as the final product and watching that behind the scenes video, how much time and effort and attention goes into the pre part of it, it was just, okay, like, yes, there's a reason why you guys are so good at what you do and why your films constantly deliver.
Right. And knowing that it's going to be 5 years out that they bring this to life, I feel like you also can't afford to be anything but evergreen in your story. And there's so many movies, storytellers, just script writers that are trying to be in the moment and go off of like today things. And it ends up really dating the film. And that's why you can go back and watch any of these Wallace and Gromits and just be like, yeah, it's like all they have to say is a long time ago is when this was done. Like, I'm not going to give you a year. Don't try to do that. It's just many years ago. Okay. And so we know it's going to be a long time ago, and therefore I'm not trying to pin it down, and it's just more evergreen entirely.
These films are just so fun, so enjoyable, really just a breath of fresh air. I love these characters going back. My kids actually watched this before I did. I had somewhere to go one night, and so as like their movie night, I said, okay, I'm putting this movie on for you. And then I left, and they loved the whole thing. And they obviously, having a familiarity with Wallace and Gromit would serve you well as far as understanding the history of Feathers McGraw and some of the jokes. So there's lots of things that reference older shorts and films, which are funny. And, you get a little chuckle out of that, but it's not necessary. And I think they did this super, super well, that most of these are continuation. There's Curse of the Were-Rabbit. This isn't a direct sequel to that. It's just kind of like another, I almost feel like these are like a TV show, kind of like The Simpsons, but in movie form, where like each one can stand alone. But if you know kind of what's happening and you followed it, you get more of the connections and you understand what's happening.
Right.
And they're just have way less episodes, if you will, of this. But this just felt like an episode of Wallace and Gromit, and it was really fun. It was high stakes. And one thing that I feel personally was that Feathers McGraw reminded me of Sideshow Bob. Or he's in jail for such a long time.
With the hair, too.
Yes, the hair kind of like this, he has the glove that makes him look like a rooster. And with the hair, the big orange hair, and he's been in jail, and like his whole thing is to get vengeance on Bart. And that was this. I mean, it wasn't necessarily to get vengeance on Wallace for putting him in jail. That seemed to be like a secondary reason, but it was ultimately to get the Jaimin back. But we don't know that initially. We just think, okay, he wants to get back at Wallace. And it felt very Sideshow Bob-esque to me, and I just loved it.
Yes. The Feathers is such a, and the fact that they put him in a zoo, like, was just, that was fun.
That was a moment that I don't laugh out loud frequently, but I laughed out loud when his jail was a zoo.
Yeah, because he was like in the highest of security prisons for this man, and it's like he goes inside and he's got it's a cell, but outdoors he's a zoo character. Like, just the amount of humiliation to add to the whole thing.
They are so good. They are so fantastic. And so as I was thinking, I was like, where would I rank this as far as the different Wallace and Gromit pieces of media? And I don't even know where I could, because there's A Grand Day Out, The Wrong Trousers, A Close Shave, A Matter of Loaf and Death. Then they have Curse of the Were-Rabbit and Vengeance Most Fowl. And so, I mean, I keep gonna just lump these all into the same one. Curse of the Were-Rabbit is fantastic. It ended up winning the Academy Award that year. Wrong Trousers, so funny. I mean, all of these, I'm like, can I rank one higher than the others? They're all just like, they're all kind of,
they're just a continuation of the story.
Yeah, it's just kind of like all A or S tier as far, like they don't have gradation as far as like, oh, this is a good Wallace and Gromit and this is a bad Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
It's like it's Wallace and Gromit. It's just amazing. It's kind of like the first three Toy Stories. But then the other ones existed, so.
And then they decided they couldn't stop themselves.
And we're going to get 5 and they have the robot give a massage. And I will say, the robot massage has never been able to replicate human massage. So this is another thing that they don't go into this, but just myself, when you get your nails done and you have the chair, or they have like those big chairs that like lay down and they massage every single part of your body. A lot of tech offices have those or whatnot. They'll have them at Costco sometimes. I'm like, why would you want this in your house? Who's buying? I know your brother has one.
My brother has one of these. It's amazing.
They're amazing,
I have to say.
But I don't think they capture the magic of a human massage. So to me, there's nothing better than a great deep tissue massage by a human, which, speaking of, I do have a gift certificate from Mother's Day. This is, again, the boom mic sitting on the floor of all the things. It's like, yes, a massage would be amazing. Go schedule the massage. This is my life. Okay. So after this, I'm going to call and I'm going to schedule my massage. Okay.
Perfect. Yes.
Let's do that. And I loved, so when they're able to have this tracking gnoming device that, or homing gnoming device. And to me, I just remember thinking like, he got his Find Friends device back. Chelsea and I are on Find Friends each other, so I can always see where she is just to check up to make sure she's safe. Nice. And another with Feathers McGraw was the evil villain of him petting the fluffy baby seal. I laughed so hard at that. That was just so funny to me. And then later when Gromit says, "Vengeance Most Fowl," I thought of... that's the name of the movie. From script.
The internet.
The internet, yes. So lots of just really funny moments that I really liked. So, anything else you want to say about this one?
I just felt like this was, like I said, all I needed was just a cup of cocoa and just to be able to enjoy that moment of just watching this movie. It was just so delightful. It was lovely. All of the British, adjectives that you could throw at it, I will throw at it. I loved it. And I don't know. I'm trying to rank it, and I'm like, will I give this a 5-star? I think I might.
Ooh, okay.
Just because it holds its standard, and it's so tight. The storytelling, the animation is flawless, beautiful, and the whole feeling that it gives is just a lovely feeling. Now, does it have like strong like replay value? Not strong, but I would definitely throw it on again. Maybe another, winter break sometime. It's definitely something that if it were on, I would definitely sit down and watch it. Just because I would love this one.
All right. As far as rating this movie, like I said, they're all just top tier, these films. They just, there's not a dud. There's not a bad one. They're just all fantastic. And where would I rate this among the others? I mean, I feel like I needed to do a Wallace and Gromit little marathon before watching this so I could really kind of put them, contextualize them. I really enjoyed this movie. And it was such a breath of fresh air that I could definitely go back and watch this movie again, like you said, and have a great time, really enjoy it. I'm sure I'd be looking for even more Easter eggs and fun things. But what would I rate it? I think I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I loved it, but it doesn't feel 5-star to me. And I know a ton of people are rating this 5 stars. Chelsea rated it 5 stars, but it's just like a few things that are off for me. It's A tier for sure, but 4.5. I feel like, hey, if they would have thrown us a bone and put this in theatrical release, then maybe I would have. I'm not holding it against them, but come on.
Are you though?
No. I would not. That wouldn't affect, but it'd be really awesome. I've been actually going to quite a few more movies recently. I feel like 2024, I've gone to more movies than I had previous years, and it was fun. There were a lot of kind of re-releases that I went to, and just I like that the theater chains are trying to look for other ways to get revenue. So they'll do like these Tuesday night classics, and you can go see your favorite movies back on the big screen. Chelsea and I saw one of the Twilight movies. We had intentions on seeing all of them because they were doing them every 2 weeks. And just the way that our schedules didn't work. Yeah, it was such a bummer. I was like, no. But
I know.
Yes, that was really fun. So yes, 4.5 and 5 stars for Chelsea. Let us know what you thought about this film, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl. Go to rotoscopers.com/330. Leave us your mini review right there. All right, our next episode, all things holding true. You never know. I'm sure next episode you'll be like, guys, you said it was going to be this and you changed. We change. I know. Things happen. Things come up. But our next episode, hopefully, is going to be continuing our tier ranking of animated abodes. We are going to be doing the best animated houses. So that's going to be really fun.
Also, I want to make sure that everybody realizes that Morgan and I have decided to start doing live shows. So if you want to be in the know on when the show is going to go, you like all the rhyming I just did there? I just decided to do that right off the cuff, because I'm cool like that. Anyway.
What skills you have.
I know. I'm a songwriter, people. Yeah. So I have gone ahead and I've created a link that you can go into in the notes section, and you can sign up, put your email on there, and we are going to be sending out an email to anybody who would like to join us for one of those live shows. And that way you will always know exactly when we are going to go live.
Yeah, so you can join us in the audience for those.
Yes. And then also, because what we plan on doing is we'll do a live news and then a podcast that we record, and that will be released separately. Is that still our plan?
I believe so, but they may be separated. It just depends on timing.
We shall see. Well, no, they'll be separate. As like we'll do a news thing, we'll do a break and say hey to everybody, and then we'll go into recording one of our actual podcasts again, so that we maintain kind of like a little bit of what we're already got going on. And so if you want to be whatever, we may end up changing, as you know. So if you want to know all of the Rotoscopers way. If you want to know up to the minute what's going on, go ahead and click the link, give us your email, and we will send you all of that information.
And until next time,
we are the Rotoscopers.
ease into that. Okay. Yes, but you are much more classically trained at microphone usage than I. So you can be trusted holding the microphone yourself, whereas I cannot. So I have now finally, I bought this in 2021. It's just been sitting in the corner. This is how overwhelmed I am with most things in life right now. It's just been sitting in the corner. So I totally redid my office. I had 3.
Yes, but how many kids have you had since 2021?
2, including the one born in 2021. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think I'll give you a pass.
It exponentially gets harder because their needs don't go away. I mean, yes, the infant needs constant attention, but it's not like the other ones suddenly just, drift into self-sustaining mode. It doesn't happen. And so, I redid my office. It's still a work in progress, but I had this there was this idea at one point in time, I had this L-shaped desk that I had made, and I had these cabinets underneath that I bought to store all my stuff, and then I had this custom countertop made that was an L-shaped, and thought, okay, there's gonna be a corner one, which will be great, and there'll be 2 other ones. So Jared wants to work in here, and then the kids can do homework. Jared and I think many people found this during COVID, do not jive working in the same. A lot of people feel that way with their spouse. It's I can't be. So he has an office. If he has to do, he has a little desk in our office or in our room that he does, and he works there, but it's very rare that he's ever really working from home anymore. So it's not a big deal. And then just it just took out real estate and square footage from the room. So now I have just two desks. I got rid of the centerpiece, and luckily it was modular. It was 3 different units. So it works great where I can just put them side by side. It's on one side of the room facing the window, and there's a little homework one. If another person wants to come in here and work, then I have my computer one, because I really don't want the kids sitting here. There's lots of gear and computers, and I don't want them touching it. So it's okay, if you need an office, many times they need to be separated. They cannot work well together. Likewise, the children. They bug each other or they're giggling. And so it's okay, you do homework in here, you do homework in there. So now I have that. And I do have my mixer. It's here. It's not quite set up. I finally got the piece for so the whole reason I'm telling this story, I have the boom mic. And then I realized, my microphone isn't one of those ones that comes with, the screw attachment meant for a boom arm. So now I'm back to having my microphone on the countertop, which occasionally gets wiggly or bumped, or you hear the computer typing, whatever. So I did place the order last night, and it arrived this morning. So I just screwed this little baby in, and now I'm officially using my new boom mic, and I feel so fancy and professional. It's sitting here right in front of my face, but not in my face, just to the side, and I'm so satisfied with life right now. I did try switching
all for $10.
Yes, I know, it was great. And I have this Magic Mouse, this Apple Magic Mouse, but I have 2 of them, and they've all just gone kaput. They just don't work anymore. The Bluetooth is constantly in and out, in and out, in and out. And I've tried all the different fixes online, the YouTube videos, switching the batteries. I've even tried to go in there and take it apart myself, which I think did more damage than good. So now I have this analog mouse, and I couldn't remember which one because they look exactly the same. Well, I do. I was let's try to take this other one. Which is just connected directly into the computer. But this one has can you hear this?
Yeah.
A clicky wheel. It's very analog with the click typey thing, which is not, and I'm unplug this. This is definitely not going to work, because as we're doing the podcast, I like to scroll at my notes and get all that done. But
and it's also just one of those things that you just you touch.
Oh yeah, it's tick, tick. It's the fidget spinner of mice.
Right. Computer mouse is mice.
So, okay. So we're all set up, babies. So baby is in the direct room next to me. That's another thing. I did have him sleeping in my closet. So he had 2 beds. He was so spoiled. He had one in the closet with the pack and play. And then he had his room, which is directly next to this room, which when I was recording, I preferred not to have him there. But I needed my closet back, and I finally cleaned that office. I have a rolly bin that has 3 different segments for clothes, whites, darks, and towels. And that was just hanging out in my hall for probably a year and a half, 2 years. I'm not even joking. So I finally he doesn't need the crib in there anymore. It's nice, but yes. So I've made a lot of progress this last week. So
I'm so proud of you.
New year.
This is a new year, new you.
Partially. Remember we talked about my digital detox challenge? I failed at this. I failed so terribly. But that's okay because there's still time to work on that. And I think working on one thing at a time, like let the main thing be the main thing. Right now, it's getting my physical life in order before I get my digital life in order, which is my digital waste that I spend online. So right now I'm just trying to get these spaces spiffed up, cleaned up, organized, and mainly this main office so we can have this podcast studio so we can start doing live streams and videos and lots of fun things.
That is awesome. And as for me,
I know, I was going to say, now that my inconsequential, totally inconsequential compared to you, give us your update.
Okay, so I have moved to South Carolina for the interim, unknown amount of time.
She's omitting the fact that she's beach house, basically.
I am, yes. I'm about 10-minute walk from the beach, which is quite lovely, except that right now it's very cold. Mm-hmm. And when you are close to the beach in a very cold, you're never going to get snow. It's just going to get biting cold.
Yeah.
And so it just goes to your bone chilling kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, so it's difficult to go outside for that amount.
Yeah.
But come, summertime, it'll be lovely. And I was here over the summer and I liked it. And so I came back. In this situation, I basically had to it took us 6 days to get here, driving specifically 4, but I spent 2 days in Atlanta hanging out with my other cousin because I was chasing or trying to outrun a storm that was coming in. And then I got there and then literally the next morning, it was just white everywhere in Atlanta. So lots of snow. We did a bit of sledding and stuff with her kids. So that was fun. And because Atlanta doesn't get snow, like it's very rare. She said it'd been like 8 years or something since they had gotten any kind of snow. And so I was like, sweet, I happened to be here right on the perfect day. And it was a snow day for them too. So it meant that I actually got to hang out with them in their house as opposed to everybody going off and doing their own thing and just being away. And so that was fun. I felt like it was a good time to be there. And so I was there for 2 days and then I kept driving. So I left on Tuesday. I got there on Sunday. So a little less. So 5 days it took. But it was a long trip.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever driven cross country like that, but it's quite long. But my dog is right here with me and we're having a good time. And it took me about 3 days to unpack my car just because it was like every day I walked out and I grabbed like a different thing. And because I don't really have to go anywhere now that I'm here. And so it's just been like every day, just like, okay, a little bit more. And that way we could like gradually move me in. As we move forward, this background will be my background. However, I will be getting a mobile standing desk.
Oh,
and
mobile?
So I'll be able to,
meaning it moves around. You need to,
yes, it is because it's just a 2-bedroom apartment, and this background where it says "Good Vibes" behind me, I feel like is a good background, and as opposed to like a bedroom, and this is in the living room. So I was like, okay, I'll get the mobile desk, and then when I'm like doing work, I'll be able to go into my bedroom, and then when I'm like podcasting, I'll bring it out here.
I mean, it seems like the mobile desk is already in motion, but you could buy a similar one of those good vibes walls and just put it in your bedroom.
I don't have enough space in there. That's the thing.
I understand. As someone with very small bedrooms, and it's like, how are we going to make this work? Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't have the space in there. Plus, like she still uses it for like her stuff too, and so I've got my stuff, I've got her stuff, and so it's kind of just a lot. So I felt like having the mobile desk where I'm like, okay, like set up, and that way I can remain set up, but also just move it where it needs to be. And I also brought my standing treadmill, which it only goes up to like level 4 as far as like, but even though that's kind of fast.
Yeah, you don't need to be going any faster than that.
You really don't. But like I'll get on it when I had my setup back at my old house, I had like the full standing desk, full computer, everything, all cameras set up. So this one will be a little bit more just a little more, mobile, the mobile station.
Cool.
But yeah, that's how I am deciding that this will work out from here on out.
I love it.
Yeah.
Are we recording? Shall we do a proper intro?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get this party started.
I will go ahead and You've been listening to the Animation Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag AnimationAddicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.